I feel like anxious folks can struggle with boundaries. And I like to call this a little bit of a people-pleasy thing where you are a yes person. So whenever a client says something to you, you're always yes, yes, yes. And sometimes I can tell you that the people can sense that you don't have strong boundaries in that sense, and you are people pleasy, and they're gonna give you more than you originally agreed on. Hello, my dearest entrepreneur friends. Welcome back to another video, or if you are listening to this one on the Omnichannel podcast, welcome back to the podcast. Now, this is part 2 of the how the attachment styles show up in business. And if you have missed part 1, what we did is we talked about how the attachment styles show up prior to landing a client. And this one is gonna be about indirect client work. Once you have managed to magically sign the client, here are some of the ways that your attachment styles, if left unchecked, can sabotage the relationship itself. And we don't want that. So let's go. In terms of the anxious attachment style, and that's what we're gonna start with, I feel like anxious folks can struggle with boundaries. And I like to call this a little bit of a people-pleasy thing where you are a yes person. So whenever a client says something to you, you're always yes, yes, yes. And sometimes I can tell you that the people can sense that you don't have strong boundaries in that sense, and you are people pleasy, and they're gonna give you more than you originally agreed on. So you are over delivering, but not in an extra mile way, but in an anxious type of reactive way, so that they don't fire you. Okay, that's also one of the signs that if a client wants to have a conversation with you, like a one-on-one, like a check-in, you immediately think they're gonna fire you. That's like a reflex. Like if they say, hey, let's talk, you're gonna be like, oh, this is it, that's it. They're gonna kick me out. This is gonna be it. So you think that every time a client wants to chat, it's about being fired. So that's a very anxious type of way of being in business, instead of the secure way, which is, I don't know why the client wants to talk to me, but I can't wait to figure it out, and I'm sure it's something that is gonna move forward our work together. Maybe it's something like a feedback, or maybe it's something that we can improve together. Like, there is no assumptions that it's about you and it's about you being fired or getting fired, right? That's something that you kind of stir the shift back, and to not think that it's about you getting fired. Like I said, saying yes to every request, struggling with boundaries, becoming a people-pleasing person, and also getting overloaded with work when you don't know how to kind of tell people that you're overwhelmed, which is gonna affect the way you show up for your clients. That's the thing. Like, if you keep saying yes and you don't have boundaries, and you overwork yourself and burn yourself out, you can literally not show up for the clients the way you want to. And you're going to start making mistakes, and you're going to start being sloppy. And then ultimately, they're actually going to fire you, because now you became unreliable because you kept saying yes and you overextended yourself in ways that you shouldn't have done. Okay? Another sign and symptom that you are more anxiously attached when it comes to a client relationship after they are working together with you is to take silence and short replies personally. So whenever you send someone a message, like check in on Slack, and the client doesn't respond to you, you are thinking, oh, they hate me. They must be mad at me. But there's something that you're kind of filling in the blanks that it has to do with you. That's why they don't answer. Or sometimes they are just giving you one word, and you kind of read into that more than you should have, when there's nothing to read into. It's just that they are in the golf course and they are like doing their events, or they are busy with something else, and taking that personally and thinking that, oh, this client hates me. Like, there's something wrong. I've done something wrong, right? It's always this self-blame, kind of self-loathing that these people tend to resort back to, instead of being cool and wanting to understand their context and not taking it personally. Saying like, you know what, he must be busy, he must be doing something else, he'll let me know when he can, right? and not take it personally and fill in the blanks. Another sign that I think I kind of mentioned before is that you're constantly scanning the relationship for signs that you're being abandoned, fired, all of that. So there is like, if they're a bit more angry or if they are having a bad mood, like you are thinking, or you made a mistake, for example, you're thinking like, that's it for me, they're gonna fire me. And it's not a good experience. I'm telling you, like I've known a girl who was super anxious in the way she was with client work. And it wasn't a happy experience for her because every time there was some misunderstanding or friction, she assumed that it's an unforgivable mistake and she's going to be fired right away. And imagine if you are working with someone with this impending loom over your head, thinking that if you mess up, you're going to be made redundant. That's not how relationships work. People don't just flip on you. Normal people at least don't. Normal, secure people are not going to just flip and say goodbye to you just like that because you have done something wrong, you made a mistake. It's not how it works. People want to maintain relationship. There's longevity. There is reputation that you can build with people, and you can trust that if you have built reputation. You don't have to feel guilty for making a mistake. You don't have to collapse into yourself if you're making a mistake. And then just as the secure way of thinking that relationships can last, they don't break. There are misunderstandings we can discuss, and if mistakes happen, we can correct and move on. I think this is very, very important for you to understand. If you're leaning toward more an avoidant type of spectrum, then this can show up in ways of you delaying communication when things get tense. So instead of showing up, even though things are not clean and easy, or maybe there is tension, you guys know this, business is not smooth. There are ups and downs, there are challenges that you need to overcome, even if you're supporting someone else at the same time. And when you withdraw, when things get tense, is a very avoidant way of reacting instead of turning towards the person, leaning in, staying present, wanting to understand, wanting to clarify. I would say that especially in terms of repair, which is an entire module inside of the human-to-human program, like in terms of how do we repair a relationship. But what I can tell you is that in terms of repair, it's important to kind of develop the reflex of letting the situation cool off and you coming back to the client kind of level-headed and smoothing everything over. I think avoidant would be like, you never say anything, you kind of forget under the rug, move on, but you get resentful and angry because you never actually addressed it with the client. You were avoiding the conversation, or anxious, which is they're going to cry about it. But either way, you're not going to find that repair, that clarity that you're looking for. And I think being secure means that you are seeking out those opportunities of repair when you both cooled off and maintain that connection with the client instead of, cutting them out. And this is also very avoidant, is basically when there is tension, it's not only that they tend to retrieve and kind of step back, it's also that sometimes they have this reflex that I have to fire this person. So it can be a very ruthless black and white thinking when this kicks in. When there's a misunderstanding, a disagreement or something, that your first instinct is to fire the client, is to be like, fuck you, I'm out, peace. And this works, even if you are a service provider yourself, you want to just fire the client and be done with it and feel relief, like, oh, this client was a moron, I'm so glad this person is out. And or if you are the client yourself and you tend to be a bit more impulsive, and when things get tense, you just want to fire people in your team. I've seen both, honestly, and they're both coming from more of an avoidant type of relating instead of sitting through and calmly addressing issues when after everyone is chill, after the tension has subsided, and repair relationships actively instead of firing people, instead of firing clients, instead of making this self-righteousness cloud your judgment in the way of being with client work. Okay? And I would also say that just any type of avoidance when it comes to showing up for calls, when it comes to showing up for clients. So any type of avoidance, a pattern here for avoidant can just be that if I stay distant, I stay safe. instead of going to the war zone and trying to amend the situation if there are difficulties in the client relationship. So if you are secure in business with clients, it means that you're able to have strong boundaries, but you can hold them with warmth. So this means that instead of being a very cutthroat person, which avoidance, they're very strong with boundaries, very sharp, and anxious folks, they are very lax with boundaries, they are overgiving and people-pleasing. So when you're secure, you can have strong boundaries, you can hold them strongly, but you also hold them with gentleness and warmth. If they ask for something that's outside of your contract or something that you have discussed, you can be like strong, but also warm at the same time, meaning that, oh, it's okay, I can help you with this. I know it's not included, but I'm happy to help you. For example, you have your client calls on Fridays and the client wants to meet outside of those calls and you don't want to meet them because you have other things to do and whatever reason, you can just say, hey, I understand you want to talk, but I'm glad to chat with you on Friday when we have our time to chat. Like, I would love to speak to you then. Is that okay? So it's about having strong boundaries, but enforcing them with warmth, with gentle reminders, with ways of maintaining the connection while you're still keeping your integrity and boundaries intact. Another way of being when you are secure is to stay regulated even when things get messy. And to me, this is so important because it also means that you can be a grounding person in a difficult situation. When the client is angry, they have a lot going on, they're overwhelmed, whatever it is, you can stay regulated and grounded and you don't let that affect your mood and you don't get dragged into the situation either. So to me, that is so important, especially because business can sometimes be a lot of ups and downs. It's very important to maintain yourself and your regulated self so that you can be a more grounded person when everyone is losing their shit. I personally think, and this might be evil, but I personally think my clients, when they are dysregulated, I think to me it's the most hilarious thing. Because I've already seen the vision for them. Like, I see that is a huge context that we're holding. There's a huge vision. And this is like nothing in the road of success. Like, it feels like insignificant, almost like, oh, of course, someone would leave the mastermind. Of course, someone would cancel. Of course, that would be betrayals. Of course, like, people would whatever, they don't pay. So when these problems keep arising in the relationship with clients, then you can stay grounded and regulated because you already know you're plugged into a bigger vision. This is what comes with territory. This is okay. And you can ground them as well, and you can just stay, grounded in your own energy and not let that affect you too much. I think that's such a good one to be. Another important piece of being secure in client relationships is to show up even when things are not so smooth. So there is a consistency in the way that secure folks can show up in business, that that you are someone that they can rely on. That you're always consistent no matter what. And you lead yourself no matter what. You don't have to be led. You lead yourself. There's an internal moral compass that you can always turn back to. And that creates such security in the terms of doing business with you, because they know that if they go on a vacation, they know that you're going to handle the work. You're not going to slack off. You're always thinking and building and staying steady and secure. And when things are hard, you're still secure and you're still consistent, okay? All right, you guys, that was it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this one. If you're interested in coming to Human, I'm going to put a link for the waitlist below. I'm going to help you become invaluable in any business organization you touch. We're gonna do a lot of emotional intelligence work inside of the program. There is a complete module on repair. If you're interested in the program, I'm gonna put the link in the description down below, or if you're listening to this one, I'm gonna put in the show notes of the podcast episode. Thank you so much for being here listening to this one, and I will see you for part 3.